Imagine it's September 1st, 1939. The world is on the brink, but no one knows just how much life is about to change. The morning begins like any other, with the faint sounds of footsteps on cobblestone streets and the distant hum of daily routines. But beneath the surface there's a tension, a sense that something is terribly wrong. The air is heavy with unease. People gather in small groups, whispering in hushed tones, their faces etched with worry. There's a chill that isn't just from the weather, but from the uncertainty that hangs over everyone. The usual sounds of your town, children laughing, carts rattling, are muted, as if the world itself is holding its breath. Even the birds seem quieter, as if they too sense the coming storm. Suddenly, a newspaper headline screams, "Germany invades Poland." The bold letters seem to leap off the page, shattering any illusion of normalcy. The news spreads like wildfire, carried from hand to hand, mouth to mouth. You may not even know where Poland is, but you feel the dread in your gut. The fear is contagious, passing from one person to the next, as everyone tries to make sense of what this means for their own lives. The world you knew yesterday is gone. People begin to pack bags, just in case. Shops close early. The streets empty faster than usual, as if everyone is retreating to the safety of their homes. War is no longer a distant story. It's at your doorstep. The threat is real, immediate, and impossible to ignore. Every knock at the door, every unfamiliar sound outside, sends a jolt of fear through your heart. You see fear in your parents' eyes, fear they try to hide, but can't. They hold you a little tighter, speak in softer voices, and glance nervously at the radio, waiting for the next update. The radio crackles. Armies are on the move, cities under attack. Each bulletin brings more questions than answers. The world outside your window feels both impossibly far away and terrifyingly close. The future is suddenly uncertain. People gather at train stations, unsure if they should leave or stay. Every decision feels monumental, every moment heavy with consequence. This is the moment the world holds its breath, teetering on the edge of the most destructive conflict in history. No one knows what tomorrow will bring, only that nothing will ever be the same. For millions, war began not with bombs, but with the rustle of a newspaper or the static of a radio. The first shots were fired in the minds and hearts of ordinary people as fear and uncertainty took hold. Ordinary life became a waiting game. Families sat together in silence, glancing at the clock, listening for sirens, hoping for good news that never seemed to come. Neighbors wondered who would be called to serve, who would be left behind. Every able-bodied man was a potential soldier, every family a potential casualty. The sense of community was tinged with fear and sorrow. People looked to the sky, not for weather, but for enemy planes. Every distant drone, every shadow overhead sent hearts racing. The sky itself had become a source of dread. On this ordinary day, everything changed. The world stood still, caught between the past and an uncertain future, as the first chapter of a global tragedy began to unfold. World War II isn't just history, it's the world we live in. The technology you use, the borders you see, the rights you expect, all shaped by the war. Radar, jet engines, penicillin, even the roots of the internet, born from wartime innovation. The horrors of the Holocaust forced the world to confront human rights, leading to the United Nations and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The war redrew the map. Israel, divided and reunited Germany, the end of old empires, and the rise of the US and Soviet Union. The conflict was a global earthquake, shifting the plates of power and shaping the world we know. Its echoes are everywhere, if you know where to listen. To understand 1939, we must look back to the aftermath of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles punished Germany, crippling its economy and fueling resentment. In the chaos, Adolf Hitler rose, promising to restore pride and blaming scapegoats for Germany's pain. Across Europe and Asia, dictators seized power. Mussolini in Italy, Stalin in the Soviet Union, and militarists in Japan. The world became a chessboard for ruthless ambition. The League of Nations, meant to keep peace, stood by as rules were broken. Western democracies, haunted by memories of the last war, tried appeasement, but appeasement only fed the fire. With every concession, tyranny grew bolder. The stage was set for global catastrophe. The spark was struck. Germany invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939, and in a matter of days, Europe was plunged into the chaos of war. The world watched in disbelief as the Nazi war machine rolled forward, shattering the fragile peace that had held since the end of the First World War. The invasion was swift and brutal, marking the beginning of a conflict that would engulf continents and reshape the fate of nations. Blitzkrieg, lightning war, swept through Poland, then crashed into Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. German tanks and troops moved with terrifying speed, supported by relentless air attacks from the Luftwaffe. Cities fell, borders vanished, and millions were caught in the path of destruction. The world had never seen warfare on this scale or with such ferocity. Paris, the heart of France, fell in just 6 weeks. The world was stunned as German soldiers marched beneath the Eiffel Tower. The City of Light was shrouded in darkness, and the hopes of free Europe seemed to fade. Across the Channel, Britain stood alone. The Battle of Britain raged in the skies as Spitfires and Hurricanes clashed with German bombers. Meanwhile, German U-boats prowled the Atlantic, threatening to cut off vital supplies. The fate of the free world hung in the balance. In 1941, Hitler turned east, launching Operation Barbarossa against the Soviet Union. The Eastern Front became a vast, frozen battlefield, where millions of soldiers and civilians would perish. Entire villages were destroyed, and the brutality of the conflict reached unimaginable levels. For a time, the United States remained neutral, watching the world burn from afar. But on December 7, 1941, Japanese planes attacked Pearl Harbor. In a single morning, the war became truly global, drawing America into the fight. Across the world, societies mobilized for total war. Men went to the front lines, while women filled factories, producing weapons and ammunition. Children collected scrap metal, and families endured rationing and blackouts. Every citizen, young and old, played a part in the struggle for survival. Slowly, the tide began to turn. At Midway, the U.S. Navy dealt a crushing blow to Japan. In North Africa, British forces triumphed at El Alamein. On the Eastern Front, the Soviets held firm at Stalingrad, turning the invaders back. These victories marked the beginning of the end for the Axis powers. Allied industry roared to life, producing tanks, planes, and ships in staggering numbers. Soviet resilience and sacrifice on the Eastern Front wore down the German war machine. Supply convoys braved deadly seas to keep the fight alive. On June 6, 1944, D-Day, Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy. The largest amphibious invasion in history signaled the beginning of the liberation of Western Europe. The world watched as hope returned to a continent in despair. The end was near, but the cost was immense. Cities lay in ruins, their streets filled with rubble and sorrow. Millions had died, soldiers and civilians alike. The scars of war would last for generations. In August 1945, the world witnessed a new horror: the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The devastation was beyond comprehension, and the age of nuclear weapons had begun. Japan surrendered, crowds celebrated in the streets, but the world was forever changed. The war had redrawn borders, toppled empires, and left deep wounds. The most destructive conflict in human history was finally over. Survivors returned to shattered homes, and the world began the long, painful process of healing and rebuilding. Amid the chaos and destruction of World War II, the fate of nations often seemed to rest on the shoulders of generals and politicians. But beneath the thunder of bombs and the clash of armies, the war was also shaped by countless individual acts of courage, ingenuity, and quiet defiance. In the darkest hours, it was the choices of ordinary people, sometimes made in a single heartbeat, that changed the course of history. Take the Ghost Army, for example, a secret unit of artists, engineers, and sound technicians. Armed not with guns, but with paintbrushes, rubber, and speakers, they created elaborate illusions on the battlefield. Inflatable tanks, fake radio transmissions, and sound effects fooled enemy forces into believing entire divisions were where only a handful of men stood. Their creativity and daring saved countless lives, turning deception into a powerful weapon. In another corner of the world, Chuna Sugihara, a Japanese diplomat stationed in Lithuania, faced an impossible choice. Defying direct orders from his government, he spent endless days and nights handwriting thousands of transit visas for Jewish refugees desperate to escape the Holocaust. Each signature was an act of rebellion and an act of hope. Sugihara risked his career, his safety, and the future of his family. Even as his consulate was forced to close, he continued signing visas, tossing them from train windows to those in need until the very last moment. His compassion became a lifeline for thousands. Meanwhile, in the Pacific Theater, the Navajo Windtalkers harnessed the power of their native language to create an unbreakable code. Their words, unintelligible to enemy cryptographers, carried vital messages across battlefields, helping Allied forces win key engagements. Their heritage became their strength, and their service was a turning point in the war. These stories remind us that history is not only written by the powerful, but by ordinary people making extraordinary choices. In bombed-out cities and on distant front lines, neighbors sheltered each other, strangers shared their last scraps of food, and soldiers risked their lives for friends and for freedom. The Ghost Army wielded creativity as a weapon, turning art and illusion into tools of survival and victory. Sugihara's compassion was his form of resistance, a quiet but powerful stand against cruelty and indifference. The Windtalkers drew on their heritage, transforming language into an unbreakable shield for their comrades. Even in the deepest darkness, the human spirit found ways to shine, through acts of kindness, bravery, and hope. These sparks of bravery, whether celebrated or unsung, changed the course of history and inspired generations to come. The war was fought by millions, but it was shaped moment by moment by the decisions and actions of individuals who refused to surrender their humanity. Their stories of courage, compassion, and resilience are the true legacy of World War II, reminding us that even in the darkest times, a single spark can light the way forward. When the guns fell silent in 1945, the world was in ruins. 60 million dead, cities destroyed, millions displaced. The old world was gone. A new order emerged. Britain and France were weakened. The US and Soviet Union became superpowers. Allies turned rivals, dividing the world with an iron curtain. The Cold War began. The United Nations was born, aiming to prevent future catastrophe. The Holocaust spurred the creation of Israel, but also new conflicts. The atomic bomb cast a shadow over the future. Humanity now held the power to destroy itself. The war ended tyranny, but unleashed a new, permanent fear. The world was saved, but never felt safe again. History can feel distant, until you see a photograph. A soldier sharing chocolate with a child, a woman's eyes filled with loss. These images make history human. Look at the photo of a Soviet soldier raising the red flag over Berlin. It's a symbol of victory, but also of devastation and coming oppression. The city below is rubble. The soldier is a survivor of unimaginable hardship. The flag means liberation for some, tyranny for others. A single image holds victory and tragedy, hope and warning. Photographs force us to see the complexity behind the narrative. History is not heroes and villains, it's people making choices in crisis. Why do we tell these stories? Because history is about now. World War II tested civilization, revealing both cruelty and courage. The world we live in was shaped by their choices and sacrifices. To forget is to dishonor the 60 million who perished. Their legacy is our responsibility. Today, we face echoes of the same dangers: nationalism, intolerance, misinformation. The story of World War II is a warning. Peace is fragile, freedom must be defended. We must stand against hatred and injustice, and see the humanity in others. The answer to what have we done with their world is found in our choices now. Our duty to remember and to build a better world has only just begun.